Hi, I'm Randy Hollenbeck, and this is the Music Roundtable. Today on the show, we have Jake Segura from hard rock band Citizen Soldier. How you doing?
Well, man, how are you?
Smile that never breaks, my only alibi. Another face, another day of wearing this disguise. You're a shadow hanging over me, judging every breath. All the secrets that you make me keep, I wish I could forget. All these things unsaid, you will never understand. You made me learn to hide the hurt I feel inside.
I want to start out by digging into some of your history. How did you get into music, and what age did you begin playing?
That's a tough question to answer. Um, I dabbled in music my whole life, but I was a fan. I was never really engaged in something consistently until um, I, I was in my first band, which I ended up getting kicked out of because I couldn't cut it vocally or as a song. Um, but I grew up listening to country music. That's what my parents raised me on. Um, Kenny Chesney, Keith Urban, George Strait, um, all that stuff is what I grew up listening to in the car, driving places, and um, I wasn't really exposed to a whole lot of genres growing up. I mean, there was some pop and country, but I didn't really. I don't think I really had any exposure other than going to like a sporting event and hearing songs that are played in that setting. But I remember being in a buddy's car in junior high, or maybe it was middle school. I think it was middle school, and he put on Bon Jovi's "Slippery When Wet." He put on that record, and I think "You Give Love a Bad Name" is the first song on that record. And what is this? This is crazy. Like, what am I feeling right now? This energy, and really dug into that. Like, I'll always love. Some people think it's really corny, and it can be, but I'll always have a soft spot for that hair metal era because that's really what kind of sucked me in to rock music was the big guitars and I was part of this like group in school that was kind of like we were almost snobby about new rock. Like new rock was never going to be as cool as old rock, and um, I was pretty ignorant about all of that. But I was just a fan for a really long time, and what I loved about hair metal was the storytelling and how vividly they painted pictures of different people's experiences and situations. And I just love that. It just sucked me in. So I think hearing Bon Jovi's "Wanted Dead or Alive" was the first time I was like, man, I want to learn how to play guitar. And I went and got an acoustic guitar and I learned how to play it. And it wasn't until I heard a band called Shinedown later on, a song called 45, that I was like, oh my gosh, I want to learn how to write songs. I want to make somebody else feel what I'm feeling right now. So, I mean, it was just, you know, little steps, little experiences kind of chipping away at my ego and my fear and my reservations because, I'm this tall, awkward kid that plays basketball and is goofy and jokes around, but I had this other side to me that I was kind of afraid to let out of the cage a little bit, I think, and it took, emotionally maturing and having opportunities to, try recording a few songs in the studio to the point where, I had a pretty life changing experience that landed me in the hospital. That was the catalyst that led to me finally, being all in on not necessarily making it in music or having a career in music, but just, I had something I finally wanted to share with the world and I felt like was worth investing in. And that turned into our first release, Caroline. So it's been a very gradual process. There was not one moment that just changed it.
How did the band form?
I feel like when it comes to interviews and our story, we just don't have like as interesting of a history because it's really like it was just a grind and it was brutal. It was just trial and error. When I decided I wanted a band, I had most of the Caroline EP written and finished, and I was auditioning different instrumentalists all over the state of Utah. We have a website called KSL that's kind of like Craigslist for Utah, and I would just scroll through there every single day, and I was calling people and I was driving to them, showing them my songs, auditioning them, and it was incredibly discouraging. Like it was 2 years of that. People telling me that people don't like music. The ad I put out was like, if you like bands like Red, Shinedown, Daughtry, um, just emotional storytelling rock music, hit me up. And a lot of people were like, no one listens to that stuff anymore, man. Like that stuff's out. That stuff's history. And I got a lot of that. Utah has this weird gap where there's a ton of pop and indie stuff down in Utah County in the Provo area, and then you go into the Salt Lake Valley, and it's all death metal and hardcore and progressive rock, and there's like no in between. So we were coming into this like weird gray area where there really wasn't an active rock band except for maybe like Royal Bliss, if you'd consider them that. So I just, lots and lots of disappointing drives out 2 hours away from my house, meeting people no showing on me, people telling me they weren't into the songs. It was just such a process, but eventually um, I found Juanita and Kyle and Cooper and Matt, and even with them, it took a while. Like Matt, for a while, would like not show up or like be flaky because he wasn't necessarily sure that what we had here was. And to be fair, if people could hear those demos, they might have had some doubt too. It wasn't what they are now. But he stuck with it, and 5 years later, almost, we had the same group of guys. Really, I got really really lucky, and it almost feels like the universe um, rewarded me for all that hard work with four really grounded, good people that don't let their issues get in the way of being professionals and showing up and doing what you're needed to do. That's really rare, especially in rock music. So uh, consistency pays off for sure.
And you didn't get discouraged along the way. You just fought right through it.
I'll say I got very discouraged, and that's I think the lesson is in that. I think there are a lot of people out there like, oh, I already gave up or I already failed, and I was like, how many times like how many guitars I've sold because I was done with music? I've done that so many times. I've given up so many times. Um, but if you don't let the giving up or the decision to be done be final, it's never too late to get back in the game. And I just like it wasn't easy. Like everything about it was so hard. Like singing live is so hard. Having a bad show is so embarrassing. Having to write all the songs is so much work. And so like there were so many times where I wanted to quit, and there was one time where I had like adamantly made the decision that I was done, and my wife just became really emotional and started crying, and she was like, I didn't think I was marrying someone who would quit on their dreams. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not quitting. I guess I'm stuck with this. And then it turned into, what is now my full time job and what I get to do every day. So just really, um, really glad that, as much as I'd like to say, yeah, I grinded and it was all me and I'm just this resilient, masterful example, I think I've had a lot of privilege and a lot of help along the way.
How did you come up with the band name?
It's not the Three Doors Down song, and I'm not. Those get over and over and over, and it makes sense. I get why they have those questions. Um, the idea was just, I think I heard something on the radio about the movie Citizen Soldier. I think there's a movie called Citizen Soldier, and I was just thinking about those words because I had all these obscure titles and um, obscure names. I mean, and at the end of the day, I was like, citizen, the everyday person, soldier, the battle that they're going through that maybe people don't see or recognize or validate, whether that's a single mom that's working two jobs trying to cover rent and give her kids a good life, or a first responder that is dealing with post traumatic stress disorder and doesn't know how to talk about it, or the kid that's going to school every day and is the punching bag and doesn't know how to get help. Like, we celebrate our first responders more so, like police officers, war heroes. I mean, there are people who get celebrated and loved and cherished, but there are also a lot of people in our society who deal with the same kind of stress and pressure and pain that isn't visible, which kind of ties in the whole mental health aspect of what this band is all about. So it's about creating a platform where we give those same people the validation and celebration that they deserve for just getting through what they've gotten through and hopefully motivating them to keep going.
What city is your band based out of?
We're in Salt Lake City, but we're pretty spread out over the state of Utah. I live in Provo. We have guys up in Ogden, which is in the northern end of the state. We have a guy in Salt Lake City, and we have a guy in Saratoga Springs, which is out on the west side. So we're kind of spread out. It kind of makes things tough because it's a drive to get together. But Salt Lake City is kind of our home base. That's where we played most of our shows.
When the pandemic hit and live music shut down for that whole year, what did you do during that time?
We were just barely getting into the swing of shows, and so it was challenging. It was difficult because we've kind of had the opposite problem of most bands. You know, there are a lot of bands who are really tight live, and they've just done it so many times. It's just muscle memory at this point, and they can play their songs blindfolded. But online, they're just not getting the traction they need to be able to do it full time. So they're working jobs. For us, our songs have been so successful online, and I say that with the asterisk of, I mean, for an independent band with no help, we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of room to grow. But we kind of had the opposite problem of, okay, now we need to. I mean, I wasn't expecting that to happen. The first EP was meant to just be this passion project that I release, play a show, be done, move on, have my normal white bread cookie cutter life. And it was received so well that we're like, shoot, we have to play a show. Like we have to, we have to actually create this live. And so, I mean, um, one thing that I'm working on right now, I was actually rehearsing the set right before we jumped on, and it's really hard. You know, I haven't had the right training until recently, and so I've had to relearn a lot of bad technique that I had all my life because I never took formal lessons. I never thought I'd be, doing this full time. So COVID really um, was frustrating because we were ready to kind of get out there and just kind of earn our stripes and play shows and just grow that part of Citizen Soldier, and that was taken away. But we just made sure during the pandemic to not sit on our hands, to continue to network with people in the industry and write as many songs as we possibly can, and just keep putting out amazing content. Because at the end of the day, whether things open up in a month or in 6 months or a year, I think people see and appreciate that constant, and that connection can still be on the internet. You can be pretty close even without having that kind of opportunity to be there in person. So we still stayed busy.
Now, after the lockdown lifted and live music returned, did you guys play some shows out after that?
No, well, that's the hard part. It's very debatable whether or not. I mean, lockdown, yes, has been removed, but it's very debatable whether or not it's responsible to play a show right now. And it's hard because you really want to. If you're trying to be this beacon of caring about people and cherishing them, you recognize that people are very frustrated with how little choice they feel they have in their lives right now. And you also want to be sensitive to the fact that there are a lot of people who've been hit hard by this and their families have been affected. So you're trying to balance that, and you don't want to do anything that's insensitive. I can say right now we're preparing for some shows and getting ready to start that up again. And we're just going to try and do it in a way that's responsible and that gives people the opportunity to get re-engaged in performances and that kind of bonding and connection with us while also being sensitive to what's going on. So we're just trying to get everything ready so that the second we feel comfortable, we can jump on it and not be having to wait or delay it even more.
Would anyone want me if they knew what was inside my head? Would anyone see me for the person that I really am? I won't lie so hard hard to hide. I've never felt worthy of love. I would give up everything I have just to feel good enough. Would anyone care? Would anyone cry if I finally stepped off of this ledge tonight? Would anything change? Would you all be just fine? 'Cause I need a reason to not throw the fight. It just might save my life.
I wanted to get in a couple of your songs here. One of my favorites is "Would Anyone Care," and it's a very deep song. And I was wondering if you could tell me about your experience behind writing that song.
Yeah, it's that's a really interesting story because I was writing the Down the Rabbit Hole record, and I remember I was sitting on my bed and I had my acoustic guitar, and I just had this thought of I want to write something. I should try and approach it in a different way. And typically, I almost always have a hook, some sort of lyric idea, some sort of T-shirt, stronger than my storm, kind of thing, where you have this concept and idea to build around. And this time I was like, you know what? I'm just going to come up with a chorus melody that just feels beautiful, and I'm not going to do any lyrics. And so I just sat there with the chord progression and just saying that, that melody. And as I was singing it, the "Would anyone care" line just kind of naturally came out, and I was like, "That's interesting," and started just kind of chasing that down the rabbit hole, and it ended up becoming what it became. I showed that song to the band, and they were kind of like, eh, they didn't love it, um, and I kind of had this like stubborn thing about it where I was like, no, there's something here, there's something here. Same thing happened with a song called Never Good Enough off of our second record, where I just kind of had to drag it across the finish line and force it into the record because the guys didn't necessarily think it was the strongest. But um, we ended up demoing it out, and then everyone was like, oh, wow, this is great. So sometimes you have to kind of, package it up and polish it and sell it to them. But lyrically, I just really wanted to create something. We talked about the importance of validating people through music, so going to the dark place they're in and not trying to sugarcoat it, but also, you know, not doing it so much that you keep them there. It's great to validate, it's powerful to validate. Then you help people have direction and help them find constructive ways to move forward. And so to have a song that's so dark and then have the bridge shift into this dialogue with somebody else and really just say what I wanted to say, you know, um, that bridge. I remember just talking out loud to myself, being like, I just want people to know that, like, no matter where they are, color of their skin, language they speak, like, how disconnected they might feel from me, that, like, I genuinely want them to know that they matter and that no matter how hopeless things feel right now, things can totally change and totally turn around. And I think that's what made it such a powerful source of connection for people who found it is they're feeling validated, and then that kind of just hits them and takes them totally off guard. So we're really happy with how that one's been responded to.
There's another song, "Never Ending Nightmare," and you have Kellen from Sleeping with Sirens singing on that. How how do you go about doing that? Do you think when you're writing a song, do you say, I want to have a guest sing on this, or how does that work?
Not necessarily. I mean, with that song, I had written that song with my friend Clayton Blue. We demoed it out. Everyone loved it, made the record, really popular one with the band. And we were recording it with our producer, Julian Como, and he has a relationship with Kellen. And he was like, Kellen did a feature with this band. You guys should explore that for this song. And this was before Kellen did 100 million features with every other band in the world. But we had him on it, and he ended up sounding great. Did a great job. Our voices sounded really interesting together. So we're happy with how it turned out.
You just released Unsaid. in January 5th. Like, is it best not to say anything than to say something? Like in that song, you're like, it's best left sometimes not to say anything than to say something, you know?
I think the song is speaking from the perspective of somebody who's been ignored and had their problems minimized for so long that they believe that. I think that is like the catalyst to completely shutting down and giving up on help is you try to talk about it, you try to explain it, you get people preaching to you, trying to fix you, telling you it's your fault, minimizing it, and it becomes so overwhelmingly discouraging that you're like, well, this sucks, but it sucks even more to be treated like this, so I'm just going to keep it to myself. And I think the song is just really reaching that point of totally shutting off after accumulating all of that frustration from those experiences.
What do you guys got planned for 2022?
2022, we're releasing two records, two full length records. We're actually going to be releasing This Is Your Sign Part 2, the entire record in April. And by that, I mean between now and April, we're going to release each song every 2 weeks. So, constant stream of music until April. We'll drop the rest of the record. And then we have another completed record that we're going to start releasing in May. And we'll release that record through December, and that will be every 2 weeks as well. So, people can expect 30 songs minimum and a song every 2 weeks from now until the end of the year. We're also planning on playing some shows.
How can we get a hold of you guys? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
Email. Email is probably the best way. If it's like a professional request that really needs an answer, I think info@citizensoldierband.com is the best way to go, or jake@citizensoldierband.com is the best way to get my attention. I definitely see those every single time. Sometimes there's a delay, but I do see them. Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter have become so crazy that we do our best to respond to everybody. We do our best to keep up with it because it's so important that we do. That's the whole purpose of what we're doing. That being said, we're starting to realize that we're human and that we also, can't respond to thousands of messages and maintain our level of sanity. So, we're trying to construct systems and put them in place to make sure that we still don't leave somebody hanging that's in a dark spot and reaching out and needs help. So we have actually a Discord server where we have a vent channel and we have moderators where people can come and just talk about whatever's going on in their lives, no matter how ugly or messed up it is. They can just spill it with feature being able to be anonymous. And you have people there who also like the band, so you have an automatic connecting point there, and probably are also struggling with similar things. So we've been trying to funnel people to Discord so that they're building that community of supporting each other, helping one another, because we don't want to create a community of people who are dependent on us because that's not sustainable. But if we create a community of people who are able to help others and also reach out, then it's going to become this system of people just coming through and helping each other. And everyone always has a friend, everyone always has someone to go to. And with the internet, um, whether it's, in China or in Italy or in the United States, no matter what time it is, there's going to be somebody there, hopefully, that can see your message and can at least respond to you. And like that's something that could save lives. That's something that save lives. And so that's definitely something that we're trying to build up and develop. That being said, I never want to discourage anybody from messaging me, from reaching out to me, reaching out to our fans. But I also think it's disingenuous and dishonest if we say, like, I have a newborn baby, I'm in my master's program, and I'm working. It's disingenuous to say I will always respond immediately. Message me anytime because I won't at times. I won't be able to. So it's about helping people understand that I would love to hear from them. We'd all love to hear from them, and we also have this other resource that's amazing and can really benefit them if they feel like it's.
That's all the questions I have. Thanks for coming on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, no, I appreciate you giving me the chance to share all this.
I won't be sleeping tonight. I know that it's gonna be war. Lately been up wondering why I'm even worth fighting for. I've been getting so tired of holding the line. Yeah, the price that I pay to survive seems so high, and I am raising my white flag tonight. When I close